Hi, my name is Didier Morelli, and I'm a visual artist. I work mostly with performance, video, print, photo installation. I have a bit of an interdisciplinary practice. I was born in Quebec and am currently living in Montreal. I have a master's from the University of Toronto in theatre and performance studies and an MFA from Simon Fraser University and a PhD in performance studies from Northwestern University in Chicago. I'm also an art critic, a writer. I'm currently the associate editor for the magazine Espace Art Actuel, which is based in Montreal. I am an academic as well as a research creation performing artist. The work that I have in the exhibition is a piece called $5 Crawl After William Popel, which is a piece I made in 2011 during my master's at the University of Toronto. It's a piece I made in the context of a solo performance course, which was taught by Nikki Cesare-Shotsko. The assignment was to give a lecture on a solo performance artist of our choice, and I picked William Popel, who I had a biographical relationship to because he went to graduate school with my father, who is also an artist, and also in this exhibition, actually, François Morelli. So I decided to do this lecture on William's work, and having known William and having a connection to him, I also knew that there was an important element of William's work which was embodied and put in practice. And so in the lead up to the talk, before the talk, I decided to crawl to class, which was the gesture that I was talking about that William does, this series of crawls through the cities of New York. The streets of New York, and then also multiple locations over the years. This work he started in the 1980s. So leading up to the class, I did a 2-hour crawl, which you can see in the exhibition, documented on video and in photographs. And during the crawl, I wore a Quebec Nordiques jersey, which I had found a couple of days before at a thrift store, and recited a poem by Roch Carrier, the hockey jersey, which is a infamous story, sort of children's story that is part of Quebec and Canadian lore about a young boy who really wants to receive a Montreal Canadiens hockey jersey as he goes to play outside with his friends and loves hockey, but then ends up being given one from the rival team, the Quebec Nordiques, and he's very upset about this. So I recited this poem in French while crawling on the streets of Toronto, wearing the Quebec Nordiques jersey, and did this 2-hour crawl, and then proceeded to give a lecture on William Popel and his work, about an hour and a half lecture in class. And so the piece is called $5 Crawl After William Popel because I'm crawling after him in a citation gesture, but also because I am talking or discussing or reading the Roch Carrier poem, so making the piece my own and transforming it into a context that was mine. So the importance of hockey in my life and the relationship to the work that I'm showing, and in general, is that I grew up in Montreal. I grew up a fan of the Montreal Canadiens and went through many phases. One of my earliest childhood memories is that the 1993 Stanley Cup is my father and I walking up to the parade, and as we crested the street, I remember Patrick Roy and the coach at the time holding the cup on the bus. So I have this memory of that. And then throughout the years, I've been a fan, and the rivalry with Quebec has always been something that I have thought about and has been part of my culture. And when I moved to Toronto, it was the first time I was leaving home and living on my own, and I felt a little bit alienated in living in English-speaking Canada. So the use of the Quebec jersey in the performance was a bit of a way for me to talk about linguistic and cultural isolation and alienation, as I felt like a transplant and an expat living in Toronto. That was the importance of that. And over the years, that piece has kind of changed in its meaning for me as I've rethought about it. And some of the important elements that I've thought about in reframing it for this exhibition, but also revisiting it myself, is how hockey as a sport, specifically in Canada, but I think in all of North America and probably globally, is inherently white. And this is something that's reflected in the whiteness of the hockey rink, the whiteness of the hockey jersey. And so William Pope Ell, being an African-American artist in New York, crawling in the 1980s, 1990s on the street to talk about being down and out, about being poor, about systemic racism in the United States and violence, has a new resonance in the piece as I revisit and rethink it, to think about hockey as a patriarchal space, but also one of deep racism and settler colonialism, which has manifested itself in the recent years with characters like Don Cherry, but I think there's countless instances of this. So the piece sort of resonates in a different way than it did at the time when I first made it. My choice to participate in the show was based off of the invitation by Jacqueline Milosh, who's the curator. Jacqueline and I have been friends and collaborators for a long time, and I was honored to take part in this exhibition that has such an amazing roster of artists who I idolize and have always looked up to, and I've always felt like my identity as an artist or as an academic or as a writer was always in conflict, or at least in slight opposition to my identity as an athlete, which is something that I always was involved in sports, but also as a fan of sport. And so this is a really nice space, or was a really nice occasion to reconcile those two things with other people, other Canadian artists who similarly think about sport in critical and artistic and aesthetic ways, and challenge the paradigms of hockey in compelling ways. So it's a real honor to be part of the show with my dad and a group of other wonderful artists.